Hi, everybody. We're here to discuss customer service for Ubi Hubs. I'm Lawrence, and this is David. And between us, we've got a fair bit of experience running VegBox schemes, and so I have some experience that I can share myself. But I think David will be able to bring in a lot of knowledge from your previous experience. Do you want to just give a bit of background of your previous experience and why people should believe in what you're saying?
Yeah, of course. So I have a career dating back to working in the city in corporate telecoms. Spent 15 years doing that, and then got disillusioned with it all and wanted to get into something a bit more earthy. And then I bought a Riverford veg franchise and really transitioned a lot of the learnings that I had from the corporate world into into the veg world. Some of which was handy, and some of which didn't work at all. But really grew that business and really pushed the growth of that business very hard over quite a short period of time, and was proud to say that I had some really good results with that. So yeah, that's my background.
I mean, from your sort of Riverford days, what did sort of good customer service infrastructure look like at that kind of scale?
So I think the thing is that when you get to a big scale, one of the things that often gets forgotten about is the customer. And customer contact is something that's really, really important. And we had an interesting model between the farm and franchisees, because customers could call the farm down in Devon and they could have a conversation with them about what was going on for them, but they could also call us locally. And what I wanted to create locally for us was that ability for customers to ring us direct without having to contact the farm, and we could resolve everything for them. So we had somebody in the office who would receive emails and phone calls from customers, and we would deal with them. And then it was really only if we weren't in the office that people would then go down to the farm if something was urgent. So what does that look like? That looks like being hyper responsive, hyper efficient, hyper effective, and giving people a resolution, quick resolution. And if resolution is not possible, then managing expectations and saying, yeah, we can't deal with this now. If we had a bigger issue, for example, we'll come back to you within a certain set period of time, and then doing that and committing to it. And that really makes the difference between good intention but poor execution.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was running Soul Farm on the ground that I remember hearing a bit of information about this sort of idea of sometimes you can turn a problem into an opportunity. And sometimes if you really identify a problem through a customer, you can actually turn them into a lifelong customer by going above and beyond. And that used to look like, for me, if there was a missing item, I literally drove 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back to give them that thing, which was totally unscalable. So what do you think are sort of scalable kind of things that you can do to sort of change somebody from like feeling really disappointed with your service to actually like, oh my gosh, that was amazing, I'm going to stick with you now for a long time?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think what this also boils down to is what people's needs are. And sometimes different customers have different needs and have different expectations. But I mean, I also used to do things like that. I also used to either send a driver out, or I used to go out myself, go out of the way to do that. And I think as small businesses, we do have that ability to be able to do that, but that does come at a cost. You know, in bigger corporations, they're not going to do that. They're just going to give you a refund. They're going to give you a credit and say we're sorry, and then they move on. And I do think there are these possibilities for us as small producers, farmers, that we have that ability to be able to respond and take action. And I think, you know, if it is a 40-mile round trip to go and deliver some tomatoes, it's probably not the best thing to do. But there may well be an ability for you to be able to do that later in the week or on a different day. And I think it's about trying to think what that customer needs and what that impact is. Some customers will have ordered a whole load of produce because they're throwing a big banquet for friends. And if you didn't deliver something on a Friday that was really important to them, they've then got to get in the car and go to a supermarket and go and buy that. And we don't really want that. So I think it's about understanding
Yeah.
what is going on at the time understanding our customers as well, understanding how much money they're spending with us, what the impact of that is for them, and then trying to see it through their eyes, and then we can come up with some kind of solution. But some will be absolutely fine with, don't worry about it, give us a credit, and we'll be fine, And others will be like, I need this.
Yeah, and what we did for Soul Farm on the Ubi system was we set up a hidden product called Apology Missing Product, and if somebody had missed a product, we literally put that in their basket for the following week.
Yeah.
And then the pick and packers would see apology missing item, and they would probably grab something quite nice, like a bottle of kombucha, or like something that was really nice kind of product to sort of say sorry there. So it was like an unexpected kind of item, which I suppose was sort of quite scalable.
Yeah.
But that doesn't deal with that need that you said, where somebody might have a dinner party and so on. It wasn't identifying the problem. It was just like putting like a one-size-fits-all kind of solution on everybody.
I remember delivering to a house out in the sticks outside St Albans. We'd go on a regular basis. We'd take a large veg box to this house, and one day the lady next door, it was like a semi-detached house. She came out and she said, "Oh yeah, I used to get a delivery from you guys." And I said, "Oh, what happened?" And she said, "Oh, well, there was something missing from my box, and then I really needed it, and I explained that to the driver, and I never heard anything from you again, and then I cancelled all my orders." And I said to her at that stage, "Well, it's a change of guard, new ownership, different thing going on, different approach. Would you like to try it with us?" And she just said no. There was a point blank, absolutely not. You've let us down. I'm not going to try it again. And so you will find people who are flexible and don't have these challenges and are prepared to flex and be okay with stuff. And you will have people who've just got a hard line on it and they're just like, no, you've ruined my day. And I think, sometimes we talk about, is the customer always right? The customer isn't, in fact, not always right. When they start to get rude and, we're trying our best, we're trying to do some good stuff in our communities, we're trying to secure our local supply chains, we're trying to bring forward great product into the market. They sometimes trip up, as we do. Yeah. So it's not always essential to bend over backwards if the customers are being challenging all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I can think of one customer, and it was just like a long-standing joke that, it couldn't have happened to a nicer person. Like, the mistakes always happen to this guy, and it's just because he was one of these guys that just constantly complaining. But he's still a customer, and he's been a customer for years.
Yeah. And
yes, he complains, and we feel a bit like him again. But he's put a lot of money into the company, and it's good.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any difference between customer service expectations between big and small companies? Do you think that some of the is there a scale? Just talk about scale a little bit of what the expectations are for customers, and do you think there's any more leeway or any difference for more CSA style businesses?
So I think the real opportunity here for small businesses is that they can change and they can respond. And big businesses really, the only way that they really can respond is in credit refund world. And I suppose we have that ability in the small business space and in the CSA space to be able to provide something a bit more unique and a bit more special, and to really turn around something that could have been a bit of a disaster into something a bit better. And I really do believe that is the thing that makes us unique in this sector, that as small business owners, we can do these things. But I really feel super strongly, and we're talking about this quite a lot at the moment, it's how knowing your customer. We have to really know who our customers are and what their needs are in order to be able to make a valuable response. And a lot of the time, people are hyper overwhelmed with lots of information, lots of email, and actually sometimes a telephone call makes such a big difference to someone who's experiencing some kind of challenge rather than trying to resolve things digitally, particularly if there's some kind of frustration. That does take time, but I think if it's one-off issues, I think we do have the resources, the time and the energy to devote that to our customers. And then obviously if it's a bigger issue and a more challenging situation, then we have to deal with it digitally because we're trying to deal with things en masse. But I do really believe that we have that possibility to provide that really lovely personal contact, which is now becoming fewer and further between. Fewer.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be so grumpy about customer service when I first started the farm. I just really couldn't cope with it, and I just found it maybe a little bit triggering as well. And you know, I'd be standing in a field and somebody was trying to ring me, or like I'd just been delivering for maybe 12 hours during COVID. Get home, sit down. It was like late at night, and then my WhatsApp was be going with problems, and I'm just like, oh, what's can you speak to that? Like what? And I mean, I can probably just maybe say a final point to that was like the main difference was that then at one point delegating the customer service to somebody else just because there was too much pressure on me. I think it was just that there's too many things going on. But yeah, is that a common factor that you've seen with the farms that you've been working in? Or was that
Definitely.
just me? I've been a grumpy.
I think that is it's super relevant. It's actually why when we were doing the Riverford thing, they actually really wanted couples to be franchisees rather than people on their own, like single people were doing, running on their own, because they realised that it was relatively low margin, which meant it had to be high volume, and that actually couples put in a lot of effort into making it work, and they'd go above and beyond. And I always say in all the training and all the work that I do now with farms, I always say, play in position. Always play in position. Have people doing things that are the right people to do the job, because it does make a massive difference, huge difference to the experience that you're trying to design. I think there's a few other things in this as well, though, which is like in the culture of an organization, it's important to try and work out like what sort of customer experience do you want to have? And if your customer experience is a digital customer experience and customers are going to be responded to by a bot or by an automated email, and you're happy with that and you want to put that out into the world, then that's perfectly fine. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you're trying to create this like personal, local service, and you're talking about that in your marketing and in your branding says that we're all about supporting the community, then how we respond to customers has got to feel like that too. So getting the right person to do that is super important. The other point to this, which I guess we haven't really talked about in terms of the customer service thing, is delivery experience. So there's the pack house experience, like how stuff gets packed and making sure that we don't put heavy stuff on top of soft stuff, and then that stuff doesn't turn up looking like a dog's dinner. That's kind of like the one end of it. There's then the delivery part of it, what happens in transit and what that looks like. And then there's the actual physical putting of the delivery on the doorstep or in the safe location where the customer wants that, and how that is done. There's actually quite a few places where things can go wrong that can irritate customers. And there's a kind of like, I suppose, like a fourth one, which is I was expecting blah, blah, blah. And, I was expecting milk, and instead I got, pineapple. And so there are all these different things that can trip us up. And those things, if we're not managing those things internally, like issues around packing, deliveries, doorstep, handling stuff on the doorstep, they can create huge amounts of traffic, of email traffic, WhatsApp traffic, phone traffic. So it's always good to sometimes take a step back and see what that experience is feeling like, internally, how we're managing those things. Because we can often remove stuff by putting some more rigor into our internal processes that can help reduce some of that traffic, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's definitely just to that ilk. It's definitely good for members of your team to be receiving veg boxes, and for your, and it's quite interesting. For instance, my dad has always got a veg box, and so I always get like anything that goes wrong, he'll tell me about it,
Yeah.
and so I kind of get that view a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. Just building on what you were saying there about like that whole kind of journey. Do you have a view? I know you mentioned like couples doing it, but thinking about a team, we've tried a number of people sort of doing the customer service kind of job. who do you think optimally in the team would be the best person to take on that kind of responsibility? If you think about, the typical job roles within a small farm or a small bakery business or something.
So I think first of all, like the most important thing is that they feel empowered to be able to make decisions and take action and not
Yeah,
have to
that's a
keep
good one. Yeah,
coming back to the owners to kind of say, what do I do here? What do I do here? So what does that feel like? That feels
yeah,
like really good training, like really good training. They really understand the product. They really understand the customer environment. They really understand if their deliveries are being done. They really understand the rounds. So really starting to kind of immerse themselves in what that looks like. Sometimes I would actually take people who weren't delivery drivers out with me on a round and show them what it was actually like to be a delivery driver and to kind of see what that was like so people could experience that and they could be immersed in that. And
mm,
obviously the other things is real clarity around what's going on in the field, what's going on in the production unit, what's going on in terms of new products and things that are coming forward, what's going on in terms of issues. So if there was an issue, for example, in the field, let's say there was an issue with spinach or something, that we're like super proactive between the field and customer service, whoever's handling customer service, that flow happens really nicely. And the same with drivers. Like as
yeah,
soon as I had an issue and I was out delivering something, I would pick up the phone straight away and say, "Hey, we've got an issue here. Organize a credit." And that needed to be acted, in my opinion, and this is how I train people. It needed to be acted on really quickly so that we responded to the customer proactively before the customer found out. So a lot of this comes in the training. So yeah, there's quite a lot there. Proactivity is definitely one. Immersing them in the day to day, and then really tight communications inside the team. I think they can make such a big difference to the customer experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really interesting that whole kind of knitting it all together because, yeah, sometimes people can feel disconnected from the farm and kind of what's going on,
Definitely.
especially if their role is mainly kind of like delivery or. I mean, I guess we've tried at Soul Farm, we tried three people doing customer service. First up was me, which was an abject failure, although we got through it. And I just basically took the sort of CSA approach of like, we are part of the community, we're a small business. Like, you're just going to have to take crap customer service as part of it, like tough. And that is one approach. But if you're trying to scale, it's not the approach that you need to take. That only really satisfies a certain segment of society. And then we tried a volunteer, and that was better.
Yeah.
But this person was completely disconnected, always firing questions over to me about like operational stuff around Ubi.
Mm.
Didn't really kind of know what was going on, but at least emails were happening.
Yeah.
Like people were being responded to.
Yeah.
And then the last one we tried was the driver, and that's what's currently happening. And I mean, I think we're really lucky with the person that we've got driving. He's just very good at it. He's diligent at the customer service, and it's just really good because he understands the round. He just has a knowledge of Ubi as well, and it's just has. The only thing is he's a little bit disconnected from the farm, right? Because the pack shed is not directly within the market garden and so on. So that one's worked really, really well for us. Yeah,
I
I'm not
think
sure
the thing
whether I'm
there is
segueing into a question.
no, but I think the thing there, Lawrence, is it's about it's about trying to do what works with the environment in which we are in. So, it's easy
Mm,
for me to say, employ someone part time, sit them in an office, or sit them at home with access to the systems, with access to Ubi, with a telephone, with an internet connection, and pay for that, make that happen, and that's an option. Of course, it is an option, as it is also an option for Ubi shops to group together and share a service like that. If we were to be able to do that, that would be an interesting thing to think about as well. But I think we have to just be wise about what we've got at our disposal and what we're trying to achieve. For us, when I was doing it, we needed someone in the office only part-time. It was enough. We monitored what needed to be done, and we had enough resources to be able to do that. And I had 3 days a week where someone was working part-time, and it worked perfectly. We got everything done that we needed. But then if I needed a bit more support, if I was running a campaign or I wanted to do something around reactivations and I needed something that was away from like the day-to-day running of stuff, then we could flex that and change that. So actually that was quite a useful resource from my perspective, because we got good outcomes, and that was a person that knew customers as well, was building relationship with customers. It was a familiar name. So a bit like with the driver, it's a familiar name and a familiar face. And that really helps build trust with the customers, and it makes it much more challenging for those customers to think about either not telling you there's a problem or leaving. So it's much more personal.
I mean, the amazing thing about using the driver is that any kind of common questions around dropping it over on the wrong place or even delivering to the wrong home is sort of fixed. Having said that, somebody that is on the pack line, any issues that come around on the kind of pack line, that they know the answer to that quite quickly.
Yeah.
What do you think are the most kind of common issues that kind of come up for people? Sort of missing.
So I think quality, number one. Sometimes stuff does slip through that shouldn't have possibly gone through. It can happen, and it is a real challenge. Repetitive products in the box. I mean, I know that's not really a thing that is necessarily in the packhouse control, but repeated items in the box affects retention and affects customer happiness. Where the customer wants the box leaving. So we used to see this if we had a round covered and it wasn't the usual driver, then if the instructions weren't saved properly, or they'd been updated and they told their previous driver, who then kept it in their head but didn't put it in the tool, that becomes an issue, because then the cover driver then looks at the thing and goes, yeah, it's supposed to be left in the shed, and then they put it in the shed's full of ants, and then the customer goes mental. So there are those kind of like connected things that can make a big difference. And oddly, one thing that seems to make a difference is, even though we don't offer any time slots, customers get really used to like the rhythm of when the thing arrives. So often if we had an issue, if drivers had a puncture or we were doing cover, I would proactively email out to those customers and just say, we're on a different schedule today. All bets are off. It's coming. We know where you are. And that would reduce quite a lot of traffic coming into the office of like, where's my delivery? What's going on? So those sort of things I think can really help. That ability to be able to be active.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things within the UB platform that I think have made a big difference that we haven't always done. And I'm talking about the software here. So the first one is a common one that I always heard was like, what's going to be in my order, or like I've put something in my order and it's not arrived, and often that's because they've missed the cutoff point. And you can get around that by clearly communicating your cutoff point, like as much as possible through sneak peeks and so on, but also just making sure that you are sending that email that says orders have closed, this is what you're getting this week.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that email has landed, and then they know that from that point, anything that they add to their boxes for the following week. And we didn't do that for years, just because it was an extra step. And we are doing that now, and I think that has made a difference. The second one is sending emails when things are missing. And so within the platform, there's a really easy tool to be able to go, something is missing, we've got no spinach, email everybody that ordered spinach. And you can send that email, and you can do that from your phone on the pack line, and it just makes a big difference. So obviously just mentioned two tools within the platform. We've also got the Thrive tools, the sort of marketing tools. What do you think are the sort of tools that can handle sort of inbound inquiries and recording notes, and how, like what are the things that sort of make this kind of easy for small businesses like ours to do this well?
Yeah, it's a super question. I think, I mean, often this stuff does boil down to the budget, but I would, for every Ubi user, I would be recording any kind of customer issue or customer challenge or response from someone using the notes field in Ubi for that customer. Because then if someone else has to look at it, they've got some context and some background, and that's straight out of the box. It's really straightforward to use. You can also use reminders in there as well, and they come up on the dashboard. If you need to follow up, it can be done using the tool. So I would start with that, because we love a spreadsheet, don't we? we love taking stuff offline, and then immediately, as soon as we've done that, it's all out of date straight away. So as much of the time as we can keep things in the system and use the reminders and the tools that are in Ubi to help us to do that, I think that would be my biggest tip. And particularly if you have multiple people looking at a customer, if you have perhaps a couple of different people looking at things, and then it's all in one place before they pick up the phone or they send an email to somebody, then it will give them the background and the context to the challenge and the issue. That would be my number one, really.
Yeah. And do you have any kind of like view on like how to sort of handle it? Like, should it be WhatsApp? Should it be emails? Like, what is, sometimes people send complaints on Instagram. Do you just have to like roll with that? Like the fact that people have lots of different contact points and you just got to keep an eye on all of them? Or do you have any view on that?
So what I realize is that different customers respond and want to connect in different ways. So it is a real challenge. I remember once one wet morning, one of my drivers went through a puddle and soaked a pedestrian on the path, and she wasn't a customer. And then she posted something on our socials and just said, these are not the sort of people you want to be dealing with. They soaked me on my way into work this morning. And I made contact with that person, and I apologized, and I said I was really sorry. And then the next thing that I did the next day was turned up with a box of fruit to the place where she worked, and I just said, we are really sorry. It was an accident. I've spoken to the driver in question. He was focused on getting to his next delivery. He wasn't really conscious. Really sorry. And then she took the post down. So, I suppose we just need to be mindful of what is going on. And if WhatsApp is supposed to be used, then maybe we have to get really tight around what we're trying to do. So if it's WhatsApp and we're going to use it to broadcast out for like bulletin and broadcast and updates, then that's one thing. If it's open for us to welcome messages back, we got to read them and we got to respond. So have we got time? Do we have the ability to be able to do that? Can we do that effectively? Can we do it in really short time so that people feel still connected to? And if we can't, then we shouldn't do it. So I think the question to the audience is, what do you have time to do effectively, efficiently, and in a really smart way? And that then gives us that ability to be able to decide what's the best mechanisms to be able to do that. And if email is the only answer to that, then we stick with that. But obviously, given that customers have all these different ways in which they want to communicate, the more channels we have, the more we get to different audiences and more we deal with their needs. So it is a balancing act.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And just sort of segueing onto the sort of new tools, there are some things that can sort of help with this. You can look around on some of the content on school or ask us questions, but we're talking a lot about welcome email flows, so that people are onboarded well. People are sort of asked questions within these tools. David mentioned WhatsApp. There are ways to use WhatsApp Business, and not have to control it on your phone. Control it through the laptop and be able to send messages out to people. And yes, you can do comments within Ubi. I think that is really good, and obviously then it's locked in with that kind of dashboard. But there's also opportunities to use it. You can use the tools as more of a customer relationship management kind of space, which then you can make a choice as to which you use as that kind of customer management space. The advantage of using the new Ubi tools over the Ubi platform is that you would then be able to create lists of people. Say you've tagged 10 or so customers, you could then download those lists and give them a call, kind of in the week, and sort of manage that. Plus you're able to manage all the different, so emails, Instagram, Facebook, all in one place. So like all the comments kind of come in and you can kind of keep that. You don't need to be using lots of different websites to keep on top of any kind of responses that you need to make. Yeah, so there's different things for different kind of use cases, and each business will want to handle things in different ways. Is there anything else that you'd like to sort of add kind of at the end there? I think we've sort of covered quite a bit, and we've been talking for half an hour.
I think the thing is, in order to be able to provide an efficient customer service response, we have to really know who our customers are and what their needs are. So I think it's really, the opportunity is there to kind of deepen our knowledge and increase that customer intimacy, and then that way we retain our customers for longer, and also they're more tolerant of the challenges that they might face, that when we do on the odd occasion mess up. And then of course the third part of that is that a retained customer is one that's more likely to recommend you to somebody else. So we're using our customers then as our own marketing team to help us get more customers. So word of mouth is just so important in this space, and where we have limited budget and we need to really target that in the best way possible. So yeah, it's a really important one from my perspective, and it really can really empower us to make good change within our teams and for our customers and for our community.
Cool. Yeah, that's really good. I hope everybody found that useful, and yeah, if you've got to the end of this, well done. And we would love for you to stick a comment within the school kind of community and give some of your viewpoints on this, and let's get this community like really thriving as well. So yeah, let's call it an end there, and have a good day.
Cheers, guys.